So feel free to join us next week as we jump into that series and see what that looks like. But today, as I mentioned, is a special Sunday because we've got some special guests who we are so thankful to have here this morning. Now, who of you have heard of the TV show The Chosen? I had someone ask me this morning, hey, does anyone here watch The Chosen? Does anybody here watch The Chosen? Yeah. I'm so glad. So I hope that some of you were able to make it to the events that happened yesterday, and they were incredible. I bet you can catch them on YouTube. But I'm glad that this morning we have an opportunity to hear from a couple of the cast members from The Chosen, and they have graciously agreed not just to attend our church and to worship with us, but actually to share part of what God has on their heart this morning. And so I know some of y'all didn't come to listen to me today. If you want to do that, come next week. Come any other week. But we have the blessing to hear from my new friends, Shaan and Kirk, this morning. And so will you guys stand and give them a Caldwell FMC welcome? Okay, so we've got a wireless right here, and I'm going to grab
Okay, great. Okay, great.
maybe 3 hours would be cool.
Okay, we'll 3 minutes? Okay, good. Yeah, you give us the hook when you need to give us the hook. Good morning, everybody. That is so cool to see all of your hands go up about watching the show. What was that? Oh, shalom, shalom. There we go. Hi, I'm Shaan.
And I'm Kirk.
And so I just would love to, well, I guess I would love to know if you have any questions that we can answer, but when Portia said that just to share whatever's on your heart, this is the second year I've been able to come to Idaho to do what we did. By the way, beautiful singing and playing. Yeah, it was so cool. High tech. I was like, this is so great. There's a way to keep in touch with this QR codes and everything. You're not messing around. So I have enjoyed the hospitality of this state and its wonderful people now twice, and it's an indescribable feeling, which is why I want Kirk to talk, because Kirk is experiencing this all for the first time. And I remember leaving here last year so lit up that it inspired me to send an email to everybody at The Chosen, both in leadership and also at Come and See, which is the foundation behind the show that's also translating the show into 600 languages. So 95% of the planet will be able to experience the show in their own native language. And actually, 3 weeks ago, I went into the studio where they recorded an hour of my voice because they're making an AI model, because for some languages, like the major languages, there's enough actors that speak that language to find good actors that can dub the show in that language. So all of those major languages are excluded. We are going to hire humans for that. But there are some languages where there's such a small population that speaks it that we can't find actors that can actually speak that language to translate it. So in that case, they're going to use an AI tool to take our performances and turn it into that language so that those people can access it, and that's never been done before. So cool, right? So the ability of the show to reach more
kind of scary, too.
It is scary. It is scary, but you're going to get a paycheck for every language that they put it into, so that's also good.
Really?
That's right, that's right. So what was your experience with this whole weekend?
It's been amazing. Years ago, first of all, thank you for having both of us. Appreciate it. Yeah, beautiful singing and piano playing. I was looking at you going, I wish I could do that. A buddy of mine, when I first started out as an actor in Los Angeles, his dad worked at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. You guys heard of that? And so I went there once with him. So that was my only experience coming to Idaho. And so, yeah, this has been extraordinary. A year ago, Shaan came here and said it was amazing. And so he sent an email to all the other actors and, like you said, the organization, and said what a great time he had. So then he told me about it, and then he introduced me to Tom Luna. It was Tom. I don't know where he is. Oh, there he is. He introduced me to Tom at ChosenCon, which is a really cool event we have once a year. And then Tom invited me to be here this weekend. It's been extraordinary. It's been amazing. And what did we do? We did 2 high school events on what day?
On Friday, yeah.
On Friday. 2 high school events on Friday. What else did we do? A 2-hour radio show. And then what do we do?
The dinner, the breakfast.
The dinner, yeah, I can't even keep track. It's been great. And then we did 2 shows yesterday. So it's extraordinary. I love the heart and soul of everyone here in Idaho. So thank you very much for welcoming me personally and all of us. It's been truly amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody have any questions that they're curious about anything with regards to the show or our characters?
Okay, next question. No.
There we go. Hand went up back there. No, it just takes time for the room to warm up. Yeah.
That's good. No, I'm kidding.
That's probably the most common question that I get asked. I don't know about you. Yeah. That's the most common question that we get asked. Let me ask you this before I answer that, because I'm so curious. What makes that the question that you want to ask? Like, why is that the answer that you want? Just because I've never asked anybody who's asked it. Like, yeah. Mm. Yeah, thank you for that answer. I love that. But my answer might not be as exciting for you because I'm only alive because God saved my life as a child. So for me, I've always been God focused, and He's always been the center of my life, and everything I do is to serve Him. So the show hasn't changed my faith or my relationship to God. All it's done is reaffirm that my eyes are on Him and He's taking care of me so I can do what He wants me to do. So that's it for me. But I will, to your point, it's really fun to see a depiction that feels more authentic to what it may have been like 2,000 years ago, so that if we want to imagine what it could have been like 2,000 years ago, we have a new tool to bring the word on the page to life, and kind of what we like to say is take the stained glass windows down and actually relate to these as human beings who had the same troubles and problems that we had, and that Jesus might have been a cool guy because people wanted to hang out with him and follow him around, and he probably joked around, and so that's awesome to see somebody who isn't just there to be like an image of an unattainable perfection, but someone who is just a really awesome person.
I think I'm sorry, what's your name, ma'am? Madison. The same thing I think is true for all of us, is that the show itself, I think, the theme here is love, right? Love driven.
I love that, love driven.
Yeah, really cool car too, going into the sunset. I think that's really what it comes down to, is that word, is love. And we can so often lose track of what that really means and what does it really mean anyway. And I think what The Chosen does so beautifully is when you see Jesus as a real human being and those around him as real human beings, you suddenly realize what love can be. Passion, compassion, kindness, decency, just to name a few, empathy, forgiving our enemies and so forth, All those things sound all cliche, but when you watch Jesus in action on the show, it just makes it more relatable, right? And so as actors, you can't, and especially the way Jonathan Rumi, he plays Jesus, he's just such a great human being, and he's got a great soul. He's very Jesus-like, honestly, and he brings that energy to set. I've known him about a decade now, and he just has a great soul. So you cannot help but be influenced by what you're seeing, by what you're witnessing, what you're a part of. And it just brings it back to this simple notion of love. And what is love? In many ways, to me, it's acceptance. Nationality, creed, color, religion, it doesn't really matter to me, ultimately. What matters is that you accept each other. You know what I mean? It's about acceptance and not trying to be better than someone else. Politics, it just gets crazy. It just loves to divide people. And I just personally have a hard time with that division. Just love, accept. And I think a big part of love, sorry if I'm going off too much, but.
This is why we're here.
Oh, okay. I don't usually like talking this much, but I think love is to listen. Listen. To it's something I wanted to say last night but didn't. And I think the greatest gift we can give each other is to listen. Listen without jumping in to talk next. You know what I mean? To listen with an open heart and really listen with compassion and love and contemplate and take somebody in instead of talking to them. So I think that's one of the biggest tenets of love is acceptance and listening, and realize that we're all have much more in common than we might think. Just listen. Listen.
Please.
Hey.
As someone who acted in high school as a Roman centurion play, I was curious if acting as a Roman centurion was difficult because it went against your personality at all to be that kind of ruthless.
Oh no, I'm really ruthless. I hate everybody. No, kidding. So what's the actual question? Was it difficult?
Yeah, was it difficult to portray
played a Roman centurion?
in a Christmas nativity scene in high school drama? Yeah, and it goes against my personality, but
Oh, I see.
apparently I made some kids cry. I made some grandparents very terrified.
Good job. Good job.
So I just wondered if it made it difficult at all portraying that, unless that's really your hidden personality. Yeah.
No. No, that's a great question. I have the great fortune of mentoring actors. Shaan does that as well, worldwide. I teach the craft of acting to others. And look, nobody, and I mean nobody, gets up and or thinks they're a bad person. Nobody. Everybody has a justified reason for why they do what they do. And I'm going to go extreme here. Do you think Hitler thought he was doing something wrong? No, he didn't. He had a justified reason. How can a great kid from Idaho, for example, go to boot camp and go halfway around the world and try to kill Germans? How's that possible? It's perspective. It's what you believe. It's your belief systems. It's what you're defending, what you're standing up for. So if we can justify murder, then we can justify anything. So it all depends on justification. Why are you doing what you're doing as a Roman? Why am I hitting somebody over the head? Why is Rome doing what it's doing? It comes down to justification, because no one thinks they're wrong and no one thinks they're bad. Everyone in this room has done stuff that we probably shouldn't have, but we justified it, correct? So it's a question of justification and not judgment. So I kill flies. I've squashed cockroaches. I've killed other animals, right? So you just have to get the right perspective. So I think I'm capable of anything under the right circumstances. Does that make me a sinner? No, absolutely not. But if I have to kill, I will. If I'm going to get killed, I'm going to defend my family to the death if necessary. So I am capable of anything. So as an actor, you have to tap into that and realize it's not who I am. It all depends on the situation that you find yourself in, and then you justify that. So I don't judge myself for that, because I know as a human being, that's the way God made me, is to be capable of anything. And I think knowing that I can kill is far more worthy than acting like I can't. Because if I don't, then that shows restraint, and that shows strength. Does that make sense? So, no, it wasn't hard at all. You just got to tap into that part, but then Gaius, for example, has the other side too, the compassion. So there's that element as well. So, great question, and no, you just go for it. And then don't judge yourself. And last thing, is my job, if you're playing a character, think about it this way. There's a protagonist and an antagonist. The stronger your bad guy, the better your good guy looks. Do you understand? He plays Shmuel. He's going against Jesus, right? The stronger he is, the stronger Jesus looks because he's going to win in the end, right? So you want to like your bad guy. You want to almost fall in love with your bad guy. Your bad guy should be charming because in the end, it makes the hero look great. Because if the bad guy is weak, then he's easily dismissible. So it's my job, his job, to be the antagonist so that the hero can win and look good. We're serving a bigger purpose. It's not about me. It's about the story.
Preach, because he's a teacher and I haven't heard him teach acting before. I'm just want to curl up and just listen to him. Yeah, and actually that's why bad writing is really hard for actors to work with, because it's harder to justify what's on the page. You look at it and you're like, nobody behaves like this. Nobody talks like this. So it's a joy to work with good writing, because you're like, I know how to thread the moments together in a way that will make a compelling story. So yeah. There was another hand that went up. Yes, please. Was that Travis?
Yeah.
Hey, Travis.
Hello. I had a question. I was curious, to your guys' knowledge, during the filming, either cast or crew, was there anybody who wasn't Christian who, during the process of filming or working on set, might have came to God?
You know, you actually touched on something I was considering saying, because I've been thinking a little bit about, over the years we've gotten questions of I think even on Instagram I got a question yesterday from somebody who I think was at the shows who's like, so are you all believers then? And I don't have the right to speak for anybody else, right? So I haven't answered yet, because I was like, well, I can only tell you that I follow Christ, but I can't speak for anybody else. But it's interesting that people want to know that the people involved in our show are believers. And Dallas has had to come out many times and be like, my first responsibility is to tell this story the very best way that I can. And so the only thing that's guiding them is this the right person for the job? Because that's the best way we honor this opportunity. Otherwise, we've seen plenty of products made in the past that maybe didn't resonate as much because maybe they didn't have that as the first priority, and then that stopped the message from getting out. And so there may be people who that happened to. A year ago when we were here, I brought Nick Shakur with me, who plays Zebedee, the father of Big James and John. And it's not because, he will say it's not because of the show, but he will say it's because of the relationships he made with some of our crew while he was on set killing time, that they invited him to a prayer event of some sort where he had his encounter and he was reborn. Right? So it wasn't the show that made him that. It was the people he met that invited him that led to his encounter. So I don't know if you're aware of anybody. I also am a little hesitant to speak for anybody other than, Nick, because he's publicly said that. But I will also say that I have the feeling that I may have said this in the 2 p.m. show, not the 7 p.m. show. What's so cool about Tom and the team is they don't tell us what to say, just like Portia didn't tell us what to say. It's just like, share what's on your heart, whatever you want. I kind of believe that you're what you do, not what you say. Anybody can say something, but it's how you actually behave that shows what you really believe and what you're really guided by. So I don't really pay attention to what people say. I pay attention to what people do. And in the Western culture, thanks to Christ and his message, it's like civilization forked. And the Western civilization recognizes the value of each individual made in the image of God and their part to play in life, in God's will. And in the East, life is cheap, and it's really about what's good for the state and what's good for the community goes above what's good for the individual. So most of the people I meet, they act out Judeo-Christian principles without even knowing it, just because it's what they were raised in. So they act in ways that serve God, even if they don't cognizantly realize that they're acting out a Judeo-Christian ethic. And I would say almost everybody on our set are the most lovely, wonderful people who show up, and love guides their actions, and they take such good care of everybody. So I'm not really worried how they identify, and we don't really ask each other. It's not really appropriate to try to ask somebody those beliefs, right? So we tend to shy away from commenting on that stuff just because everybody's time, it's his timing. It's not our timing, So we just want to love everybody and tell the best story that we can.
I would add to that, and that's what I was talking about earlier, love. Like, who cares? where somebody is from. And that's no disrespect to you, but it doesn't really matter. It matters the kind of human being.
No, I brought that up. He was just like, has anybody had a come to God? Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, you can direct that at me.
No. But it's a great question, because one assumes, because it's what they said. Like, so is everyone a believer? Like, what difference does that make? Honestly, what difference does that make? Are you going to like the show more or less because everyone's a believer? That tells me that you have a
You're a Pharisee.
Well, that tells me that you have a bias. Like, you're ready to judge it. If it's all Christians, then I love it. If it's not all Christians, well, I don't love it as much anymore. That's judgment.
I understand
that's
if
not
it's. I can understand it if people go, because this is something we absolutely have faced. Isn't it important to all of you, especially since you watch the show, you're exposing other people to it, you're exposing your family and friends to it, isn't it important to you that the people who are doing it have a reverence for the word and have a reverence for the story, and that they handle that responsibility with care? Absolutely. So I 100% understand why people want to know that the people that are in charge of something that's moving across the planet deserve it and are going to be good stewards of it. So 100% I agree with that. But absolutely, like, in order to do that, it may not be the way that other people think it should be done. We may need to have a bigger heart and a bigger mind to make sure we honor what he wants. And so Dallas has done an incredible job of, every time people have concerns, he'll do like a Facebook or YouTube live stream or TikTok or whatever, and just head on answer the questions and concerns people have. And you can't please everyone, but what we've done, I think, really well is that, like as Luke said in the 2 p.m. show yesterday, is that Jesus is non-denominational. He belongs to all of us, right? And so as long as we're focusing on the greatest 2 commandments, love your God and love your neighbor as yourself, everything else is on top of that.
Treat each other with respect, put the needs of others before our own, be of service to others. These are the real tenets. And, being friends with and have worked with Dallas now for 25 years, I can tell you that man knows the Bible and he knows Scripture, as does his wife. So the stewards of the show are incredible.
Didn't he study? He went to a Bible college.
He went to a Bible college.
He went to Northwestern Bible College that's in Minnesota.
And his dad is Jerry Jenkins, who wrote Left Behind, that whole book series. So, like, these people care about Jesus like nobody else. They care about that story. And we also have a rabbi, a Catholic priest, a pastor. Yeah, in other words, all these guys look at the scripts before they go out to make sure that we're not making mistakes. So the stewards of the show care so deeply. I know that personally because I've known these guys for so long. And so who makes it? I think it should be the best person for the job.
Oh, by the way, so when I said the word Pharisee, I heard somebody go, right? And I just want to explain where that's coming from, because I encounter so many. So Pastor Doug Huffman is one of the people on our trio that look at all the scripts to make sure that they're like, hey, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't say that. This may be problematic. This isn't in Scripture. Maybe you should reconsider this. So nothing goes forward without those three looking at it and giving us their opinion of it. And at ChosenCon a couple years ago, Pastor Doug Huffman said that we today are at the greatest risk of being the modern equivalent of the Pharisees if we focus more on the technicalities as opposed to those first 2 commandments, And so when I'm out and about and we're doing these talks, I get so many questions where I'm like, that's what your attention is on. Not love, not non-judgment, not openness. Your attention is on whether we were unclean because we came in contact with a menstruating woman that day or something. You know what I mean? That kind of equivalent where it's like, that's where your attention is, not on the heart and the soul first.
Oh, you're this religion. Oh, you're that. Oh, you're this religion. Oh, you're that.
Yeah, so sometimes it's the
party.
It's like that. It's more important for the performative aspects of it as opposed to the true heart and soul of it, and that's interesting to encounter. And that's when I love to challenge it and talk to people when they ask me things. Like, for example, I was at a rehab center in Minneapolis a few months ago, and one of their people who had been staying there seems like a sweet enough guy, but he's like, when you're out there talking about the show, how can you tell who the good Christians are versus the bad Christians? I was like, is your name Shmuel?
You should hire him.
Right? I'm like, nah, man, like it's not my judgment that matters. I'm just here to love and try to help you in any way that I can. Like it's not for me to say, but I think that's what people get wrong about Shmuel too. Judith, right? I had a chance to meet Judith, his husband, just a few minutes ago, and he marches up and says, "I don't like your character." Well, actually said, "I don't like Shamal or something." I'm like, "Well, I don't know who Shamal is. My character's name is Shmuel." But by the way, nobody can say my character's name right. Even half the crew and cast can't say Shmuel. If you watch the first season, you will see even Nicodemus say Shmuel, which only makes me seem more sleazy and slimy when he says it that way. But we were still figuring things out in the first season. You can't fault us too much. But yeah, so many people dismiss Shmuel, saying like, oh, because he doesn't believe in Jesus yet, he must be a villain. But what has Shmuel done that is so wrong? Has he approved of the stoning of Stephen? Did he imprison and pursue jailing Christians, and men and women alike, like Saul did? No. And Saul became one of the greatest apostles of all time. It's Paul. You're right? Like Shmuel is a young man. He was raised to believe what he is acting out by. Nicodemus is one of his teachers. And just because he doesn't believe the first guy coming along that claims to be the Messiah, somehow he's a villain, you would protect your family too from somebody if you didn't totally know what was going on. So I love it when people come to me and they say, thanks to Shmuel, I don't know what I would have done 2,000 years ago. Would I have defended the Torah as I was taught it and raised it? Because part of what people don't understand, the reason why Pharisees were so insistent is because they believed the Messiah would not come as long as they were a sinful people. If they didn't get their act together, it would just be longer captivity under the Romans. So that's why they were intense. It's like, if you don't do this stuff, we're going to be captive longer. And Jesus did not come the way it was previously foretold, so it threw them for a loop. And he didn't come to be a military conqueror, which is what they were all convinced he would be, right? So, and that's why one of my favorite scenes is the scene with Nicodemus and Shmuel, where Nicodemus is like, hey, have open eyes to see new things, God doing new things in a new way. And Shmuel's like, no, you're the one who taught me to follow this book. I'm following this book, right? And I love that.
Yeah, well, beautifully said. But again, it goes back to if you don't have a good antagonist to challenge the protagonist, then what do you have?
Yeah.
You have to have discerning minds. You have to ask questions, because I thought about this not too long ago. Like, if some guy showed up here today and said, just forget what historically we know, and said that he was Jesus Christ, what would you guys think? Seriously. Downtown Boise, there's some guy walking around saying, I am Jesus, and he's cool, he's forgiving.
He's still learning to say Boise.
I said Boise, didn't I?
It sounded like a little bit of a Z to me.
Did I say Boise?
That was great.
Okay, sorry. Boise. Boise. So I thought about that as an actor, because Gaius' character definitely, I think my first line to Jesus was, keep walking, street preacher, in the show. That was literally the first thing I said to Jesus in the show. And of course, you see the transformation. But I had to think about that. What would that be like? If some guy was downtown going, like, what if you were downtown? Sir, what's your name? Yeah, you. Yeah. No. The guy with the yes, sir. Doug, what if you went downtown Boise and some guy was walking around claiming he was Jesus and he was starting to get a following? Would you question it? Right? That's all he's doing.
Especially if his cousin hadn't taken a bath in like a month, was wearing animal skins, and he was like, you're all a brood of vipers. It's like, excuse me? Who are you?
You know what I mean? Of course we're going to question it. We're discerning minds. You have to put yourself back then as we are today. So if you go back in time and think about it, everyone here is just like the people in the first century. We just wore different clothes, and the rules were a little different. The laws were a little different. But I'd be like, what? You're crazy, man. You're nuts. You're Jesus? Really? Especially when you have all the books and everything else that go with it to tell us he was going to be a military leader and all these other things. So.
Yeah, and in Shmuel's mind, which is not how it was, but in his mind, because he wasn't at the Sermon on the Mount, he wasn't at the feeding of the 5,000, he didn't see the healing of the leper. So the first thing he sees is some guy lowered into a thing, and then walking out with his mat. It's like the 3-card Monte, right? Like that in his mind, he's like, this is just a con to get these people to, he couldn't even really see what was happening. So I think that it's very easy for us to judge people not knowing that they may not have been exposed to the things that may have made the difference in their faith yet, right? And that's why I think The Chosen is making a big impact. It's bringing people a story that connects them to, it inspires them to crack open their Bibles. A lot of times to even say like, is that in there?
Yeah, right.
That's in there? I had no idea that happened. Even like in the upcoming season, I'll give you one minor spoiler. But it's not really a spoiler because there's actually a book that you can read.
Oh, that's right. It's around here somewhere.
People forget that the religious leaders called for the death of Lazarus to undermine Jesus's raising of Lazarus from the dead. They said if we should kill Lazarus, and that will undermine this rumor that he can somehow raise people from the dead. So you see that in the show, and you're like, that's in the Bible. I totally forgot that. Yeah, so something like that. How are we doing? I want to make sure you have all your time. Okay, good. All right, great. Portia, oh yeah, right behind. What was your name again? Gina. Awesome, Gina.
Gina.
No, she said
kidding.
Gina.
From Boise.
That's right. He's practicing. We're
Check.
training him.
Yes, I have my question written down so I don't jumble my words. But I liked what Travis was asking earlier about, is there anybody that works for The Chosen that maybe hasn't come to know God yet? Or at least that's how I understood it. I hope that's what he said. But it got me thinking about maybe there was something that he witnessed, he or she, this person, and maybe a scene or an experience with somebody else that those kinds of stories are beautiful stories. And so that's the kind of thing that I was like, oh, man, that's a great question. Are there any cool stories? So thank you for sharing the story about Zebedee and him being invited to the prayer night. That was pretty cool. So then it got me thinking, were there any biblical passages or scenes or anything that either one of you have acted out that maybe has helped to shape your understanding or moved you in a new direction?
Anything that we've, like, something in the show that reminded me of a passage in the Bible that somehow impacted me?
Is there anything that you've acted out or a scene that you've been a part of or something that you've witnessed? We can just make it broad.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is, again, I'm very unchanged by being on the show because I've been changed in so many, like, terrestrial ways, you know, because having a home on a show during some of the worst years in the acting industry, between the shutdowns related to COVID and then the strikes and then now these fires that have incinerated 2 cities. We don't have anything like that to look to other than like Nagasaki and Hiroshima, where 2 cities were incinerated. Those people didn't get a chance to flee. Ours did, so we only lost like 21 people, but still they lost every single thing they own. And so I'm going to go back to LA, and we're still trying to grapple with the magnitude of the trauma and how we absorb all of that. So I'm so fortunate to be insulated from that with security as an employed actor during some of the worst times. And I don't take any credit for that. God prepared me for that, and so I'm so grateful. So I'm not changed in a spiritual way because that's never been, I've never faltered since I was like 8 years old. But when it comes to things that have touched me, I spoke about like 2 of those. I've already brought up, what are the 2 greatest commandments? But the 2 phrases I brought up yesterday, was anybody at any of the events yesterday, by the way? Oh, thank you. That is so cool. So, I brought those up yesterday then, so I'll just share it with you, Gina, which is like, blessed are the peacemakers, not peacekeepers. And I have tried so hard to make the peace, which in my way has also been trying to reform corrupt organizations or things that could be better and trying to bring my loaves and fish and see if I can make something better. That's been my experience at SAG-AFTRA on the board of directors, trying to reform our labor union, which has a lot of issues. And then also the first one, which is, if the world hates you, know it hated me first. Like, people are going to hate you for trying to make things better because they're threatened by anything new. But the world would never get better if we were afraid to confront something that isn't working, or to look out for a friend and say, maybe don't drive drunk or don't do this or that or whatever, right? So a theme of my talk yesterday was confrontation sometimes is necessary and good, and we shouldn't shy away from it and not express our truth. And if the worst thing that happens is you're wrong, like Shmuel's wrong, he may not be a bad person, but he's certainly wrong about Jesus at this moment. And so Good people are going to be wrong, but you know what you get out of being wrong is you learn how you can be right next time. And so you can learn from it. So you really win no matter which way. And we don't see it that way because we can get so wrapped up in being right. And so I would say that that's been reinforced when being a part of the show and having these discussions just reinforces my courage to challenge things that I don't think are right.
And I would add to that, only say the word and he will be healed. Gaius says that. That, I grew up my whole life hearing that. Only say the word. And what that is a great reminder of is that God, Jesus, however you want to look at it, everyone's got a different name for it, can do anything. Anything. And that's a great reminder for me, and a great reinforcer, I guess, that you just have to believe, man. It might take a long time, you never know, but you just have to believe. And if you believe, it'll come to pass. It's just time. I've got so many personal stories of that, but you've got to believe. Have that faith, and that's what Gaius did. What was the line? Not in all of Israel have I seen such devotion, I think Jesus says.
You mean when he praises you?
Yeah.
Like,
not in all of...
You want me to try to remember exactly how you were praised by Jesus?
Yes, I would, actually. Make me feel good.
He said you were one rad guy.
There you go. That's just how cool the Chosen is.
He wants me to remember the lines in his seeds.
Yeah, I can't. Well, what he basically said was like, this guy's got more faith than all you people.
Yeah, he said, something
What's
like that.
What's wrong with you people?
Right.
So, so I'm reminded
Definitely
of that.
a paraphrase, but that was it.
Yeah, but, that's so important to me personally. So.
I'd love to know, Portia, if you have any thoughts or questions on it.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Oh, look, your husband's all over it.
Thanks. I would say for me, one, and I know that this may not be the opportunity to share, but even hearing, saying, okay, I've had faith since I was 8, or, I grew up hearing this. And so even just to kind of know part of your own story, right? Because we all have a story. And I know right now it's really cool to hear about the incredible show that you're a part of, and to celebrate this show because it's impacted so many people. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you were impacted prior to that, what my wheels were just turning is, wow, I wish I could sit down and hear your testimony, Yeah. And then another question that I had, and maybe there's more time for this one, I'll let you guys decide what you want to share. Just understanding, like, I know that you leading the union and you guys are both doing things outside of this show because you are using your platform in so many ways to speak into things and to inspire people and to lead change within your community. And one of the things that we rally here at Caldwell FMC is we don't go to church, we strive to be the church, right? Mm-hmm. And so for both of you who have your own relationship with God, maybe apart from this show, what are some ways that you just live in your regular life that you make a difference?
So when you talk about my union service, I started serving in 2015, 2016, which was before I ever, before The Chosen was a thing, before The Chosen was kind of my primary ways of sustaining myself. Yeah. And so being in union service was a strategic decision to, if I could be of service to the organization that literally controls our profession, that maybe it would open up opportunities for my own success. And so by volunteer, because it's all volunteer work, I don't get paid for anything beyond the board, all that is all volunteer. But I have been obsessively volunteering for the union, and it has made me not only more successful and earn more money and build relationships I never thought I would have, and bring such beautiful people into my life as a support system, educate me. I can talk to anybody in the entertainment industry leadership community, whether it's a director, writer, producer, casting director, crew, whatever. We speak the same language. I know how to read my contracts. I know how to fight for better pay. I went up against the biggest media companies as part of a 34-person negotiating committee that shut down the whole industry for 6 months over trying to protect us from AI taking our work and all these different things. Like, it brought so much to me just to be of service. It's totally an example of you give and then you get more than you give. You don't do it for that reason, but it just happened that way. So So yeah, that wasn't me like, hey, now that I have a platform, I'm going to get involved in my union. No, I have gone, what I like to say is, you don't do all the things I've been doing and not succeed. Like, I have set up my entire life to come at the industry from every single angle imaginable. My goal is, and I said this to Kirk, is like to reduce the role that luck plays in my success. And I try to do that with all my students. To your other question, just real briefly, so I grew up as the first generation, so born in Minnesota, raised in Minnesota, of two immigrants from India. It was an arranged marriage, which wasn't good in their case. My mom did not want to marry him. She met him 3 days before she was supposed to get married and said, there's something wrong with him, I don't want to do it. And they said, it's too late. And it took 22 years for her to divorce my father. And the impact is, it was a lot of abuse in our home. It was really, really difficult. And that's why I say there were times where not only was I getting it at home, but as the only Indian kid in an all-white high school, it wasn't even that I was being overtly, intentionally bullied. When kids are that young, they don't even know what they're saying. They're just experimenting with being mean, and most of the time they don't like it and they change, but they still say a lot of hurtful things. So in junior high, it's like I was getting it at home and I was getting it at school. I never wanted to be there. And so, but through all of that stuff, my sister's way of dealing with it was to just placate him, say whatever you got to say, to go in your room and cry. My way was to fight back no matter what, even if I got beat up, right? So that's why I've been my entire life. I don't give in to bullies. I didn't give in to my dad as an 8-year-old. I'm not going to give in to anybody, right? I will fight back. It doesn't matter if I win or not. You just have to fight back. And so for me, I very easily could have gotten pulled into drugs and this and that and bad behavior and all that. And there was a voice in my head the whole time saying, you got to protect this and this no matter what. And so I wasn't a good student because I was playing piano. I was going to school early to play piano. I was sticking around late to play piano just to get what was in here out of my body onto those keys and into that wooden instrument, and to do plays and to escape from being Shaan for a while and to go to friends' houses and be loved by their parents. Like all of my teachers, they said, your grades are so bad, we should really fail you and make you do high school all over again. But we love you so much and we know what you're capable of. We're all going to pass you and send you into the future. So they all saw that I was a good kid. It's just I was dealing with really tough circumstances, right? So I know I've been under his protection my entire life. He preserved me so that I could be of use to the world after my childhood.
Amazing. What was your two-part? I got so into that, I forgot the question.
I don't know. Who am I? Anyway.
Yeah, really. What's my name?
Yeah, part of it was just to hear parts of, Boise, yes. To hear parts of your story, which thank you, Shaan, that's beautiful. And having a lot of educators in this room, I know that's meaningful.
And I haven't shared that with many people, so this is just for you.
Thank you.
Oh, I think now I know what I was going to say. I never thought I would do it, but I started mentoring actors because I was always taught those who can't teach and those who can't teach administrate or something like that. That's what I grew up with. So yeah, I started mentoring online, and I have a once-a-month group mentorship. I bring in amazing working, and I would like to have you. I haven't mentioned that to you. Yeah, thank you. As a guest mentor, and so by extension, it's amazing. I never thought I would do it. I was just kind of just an actor into my own world, wanting to do my own thing and not really putting it out there because who would want to listen to my opinion? But it has been very rewarding to mentor actors. And so as a result of the show, that's just, for example, I have never in my entire life done what I did yesterday. Excuse me. I've never talked. I've never done what I did yesterday. In front of a big crowd. Yeah, that was the first time. Yeah, because I'm just an actor.
Did it look like it was his first time?
Yeah, it was my first time ever doing that. So I would never do that before, but I guess maybe I'm old enough and I just forget it, whatever. People are going to judge me. I don't care. So I'm just putting it out there. So that's how I think the show has really influenced me personally, is going beyond my own comfort zone, because I just wanted to be an actor and do my thing, come alive, and then go back into the corner kind of a thing, and just be very intense about it and deliberate and basically not talk to anyone. So this is totally new for me, and I know it's because of the show.
That's so good. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. And you guys, can we tell them thank you for sharing today?
Have you watched the show? Thank you for all that.
Maybe here, where's my phone? Let's just do a group selfie right now. All of y'all Smile. Okay, you ready, guys? You guys did this yesterday, and it inspired me. You ready? Oh, let me get one of you guys right here. Ready? Fine, Doug. I didn't want to be in your picture anyway. You can crop everybody else out. Don't you worry.
Do the group with everybody.
All right, everybody.
We'll beg out. Everybody get in there. Get in the shot.
There we go. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So, thank you. Okay, so you know what? This is so fun, and it is so special. And I think that it's going to be something that we don't ever forget. This is going to be memorable. So thank you guys for sharing this morning. Honestly, I know that you've done so much this week, and it's going to leave a ripple effect. You know, things that you're doing for the first time, things you're doing for maybe, who knows, the 100th time. It's going to leave a thumbprint, and it's going to leave an imprint on the people here in Boise and Caldwell. And so thank you. Honestly, thank you. Because the craft and the thing that you guys do for work, we all have jobs, right? You know, some of us talk about Jesus for a living. Some of us do different things, but the things that you guys do for a living impact a lot of people, and it's changing the world. So thank you so much. Yeah. And, you know, speaking of changing the world, you guys, there is no world changer like Jesus, honestly. And if you know anything about Caldwell FMC, you already know that every Sunday I give an invitation for anybody who wants to say yes to Jesus. Because the show, The Chosen, the best part about the show isn't the show. The best part of the show is kind of what Madison said, that it just makes Jesus so much more real and tangible. That Jesus isn't just this ancient figure that we read about in an ancient book, but he wants a real relationship with each of us. And one of the cast members, Liz, she shared maybe at dinner the other night, and it honestly kind of marked me, because one thing she said is she was talking about different scenes, and there's a scene where in the show, which you're going to notice this when you watch it, Doug, there's a scene in the show where Jesus just gets a hug, and the look on his face is like, ah. And I think it's so beautiful, because oftentimes we remember that Jesus gives love to all of us. But sometimes it's so easy to forget that he wants to receive love. And the most valuable thing you could ever give to Jesus Christ, the beginning, the end, the Alpha, the Omega, the creator of heaven and earth, is just your heart, because he's the lover of your soul first. And so if you've never said yes to Jesus, I just invite you. We don't do a big altar call type thing here, because I believe that in the silence of your heart, God can hear you. You can talk to him in your own mind and heart. And it's so easy. You can just say, Jesus, I want to know you. I want a relationship with you. I want to understand who you are. I want to walk with you. And you know what? The beautiful thing about Jesus is he just says, hey, come follow me.